They're having riots and civil unrest, and they're not taking elevators and mass transit where they might, catch a virus. Those are a pretty safe bet, because the other thing that's happened during this whole thing is everybody's really realized that the home is the center of the universe.
Yeah.
And since so many people are working at home now, they actually need a larger home. They need more space. So instead of living in that $4,000 a month, 600 square foot condo or apartment in New York City, for $1,500, they can get a 12 to 1,500 square foot suburban house with a yard and a 2-car garage in a nice community, and they're already working at home. So what's the difference if it's 10 miles away or 100 miles away or 1,000 miles away? It's all the same.
You tell it so well. Wow. Jason Hartman, a guy who's made millions and millions of dollars in real estate, and he started as a kid investing in real estate, and we're just so glad to be able to have him on to take us through these explanations, because they do make sense. We'll follow to see, and hopefully we'll be able to have a conversation again. Thanks so much, Jason. Always appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks, Rick.
So my name is Steve Young from Voorhees, New Jersey. I'm at Jason Hartman's event, and I found that this event is really helpful because I'm totally a newbie to real estate investment. And so I picked up so much information, just simple stuff in terms of how to deal with property manager contracts, just different ways of looking at real estate in terms of cash flow generating instead of just buying and hoping the value goes up. And so I found it extremely helpful in looking at this as a sort of less risky way of investing in real estate. And how I found out about this event, I'm friends with Jason. We both belong in another group called the Mavericks, and we've been on trips together. I was here to talk about, he talks about real estate, I talk about health. And so I figure he invited me to this event, and it's been really an amazing event for me because all the content has been extremely helpful with what I want to get into.
This is always a unique experience for me because Jason has taken the time to actually really educate his people. He's big on education, and that's true to my heart because we're big on education. I always say that the financing part of this entire orchestra, real estate investing, is the piece that is most often missed. And so why education is so important to me and why I align so much with Jason, because he's so big about education. And he walks the walk and talks the talk. He really takes the time to educate himself, so the information he's giving to his investors is the real deal. So I respect and appreciate that very much. Meet the Masters is so nice because I get an opportunity to get out of my little box of finance and come down and get to meet with all of my clients that I've been working with throughout the year, all the market specialists. It's just usually a great few days, so much fun. I look forward to it all year long.
Hey, it's Jason Hartman, continuing with the 10 commandments of successful investing. So today, I want to talk to you about commandment number 9. Thou shalt only invest where there is universal need. You know, there's an old saying, people all have 3 common needs. What are they? Food, clothing, and shelter. Let them rent that shelter from you, right? Let them rent that shelter from you. Food, clothing, and shelter. So when we are real estate investors, when we are landlords, we're offering a fundamental, universally needed commodity, housing, shelter, right? Very, very important thing. Now, a lot of people out there want to appear more sophisticated. So they say, well, I don't deal with this little housing stuff. I'm in commercial real estate. I want to own shopping centers and office buildings and high rises and huge apartment complexes. Well, the apartment complex isn't part of it, right? Actually, that's housing. But you know, or they want to own an industrial property, right? Look, at the end of the day, the only thing everybody needs, and if our population is increasing, the only thing everybody for sure needs is a house, a place to live, a place to sleep, a place to call home, right? Let them rent that from you. Look at what's happened with outsourcing over the years, okay? Really since the early 90s, and maybe really inspired by Richard Nixon's famous trip to China in the early 70s, right? Maybe that was the start of it. We saw this massive push toward outsourcing. So we outsourced manufacturing to China, known as the workshop of the world. Now that tide is turning with President Trump, love him or hate him, jobs are coming back to America. And listen, I have my qualms about Trump for sure, but I have always said he's going to be good for the economy and good for the American worker, which really hasn't had a pay raise in guess how long? 41 years. In 41 years, the typical American worker has not had a real dollar, in other words, adjusted for inflation, a real dollar pay increase until just recently. So that's huge. That's a big deal. So China, we outsource our manufacturing to, right? The workshop of the world is China, right? And so what does that do to industrial property real estate investors in the US? Well, it lessens demand for industrial properties, right? Properties where they manufacture things. Okay, then let's look at the retail apocalypse, as it's known, right? Amazon.com is leading the charge, destroying businesses, just destroying businesses. You look at shopping centers everywhere, whether they be, beautiful shopping malls or strip centers or big box, what's known as big box shopping centers with, formerly Circuit City, now Best Buy and Costco and these big centers, right? With the big box retailers. They're all having problems because retail shopping has largely been outsourced to the internet. So that market has become very, very depressed. In fact, it is a retail apocalypse. So we manufacture outside of the country, lessens the need for industrial properties. We shop online, lessens the need for retail properties. Well, what's the other big category? Office space. You guessed it, office space. Fortune 1000 companies and all the rest are telling employees to go work out of the house. And guess what? Employees like it, right? There's a great book by, I've interviewed him, I believe, on my podcast, Mitch Russo, called The Invisible Organization, which is about having a virtual company. Look, my own companies, we always used to have big, beautiful offices, Class A offices that cost $20,000 a month, or maybe more than that with all the affiliated expenses. And these offices, I used to think that was really important. And then when our last lease came up in Southern California, in Orange County, California, our last lease came up in 2012, we went virtual. You know why? I decided to stop fighting it. My employees and my staff didn't want to come to the office. They all wanted to work out of the house. And they'd come up with this excuse and that excuse. Can I work at home today? Whatever, right? And I thought, why am I paying for this office space? And why am I paying for this staff to be here, the receptionist, et cetera, right? Why am I paying for the coffee service that comes in and brings the coffee and, the water service that brings the water and all this stuff, right? We'll just let people work out of the house. Lessens the need for office space. So office space has undergone a significant depression as well. At the end of the day, everybody needs a house, a place to live. In fact, I would argue that they need a bigger house now because they're working at home, right? They're working at home, a lot of them. Home-based workers, virtual workers, remote workers, huge trend, probably isn't going to go backwards anytime soon because it's enabled by what? Technology, right? We have video conferencing, we have all these tools, and not only that, there are all these tracking tools now to track and organize virtual teams, right? So it's a great deal for the companies and it's a great deal for the workers. The workers don't have to spend their time in a car commuting. The environment doesn't get as much pollution. They get to eat what they want. They don't have to spend a fortune on lunch. They can be at home. They can be with their kids. They can go walk the dog. Folks, only invest in things that have universal need. Everybody needs a place to live. Now, on a future video, we're going to talk about something I call packaged commodities investing or assembled commodities investing. And what I mean here when I talk about this is that I don't even like real estate. I think real estate's overrated. You know what I like? I like commodities, but not in the way you might think, right? A lot of people think, oh, well, if I want to invest in commodities, then I'll go to the commodities exchange and I'll buy coffee or pork bellies or, whatever commodity, orange juice, doesn't matter what it is, everything's a commodity. You might buy precious metals, right? All of this stuff. But, I like these commodities to be packaged or assembled in the form of a house or an apartment building, right? Think of it. All these ingredients, right? Copper wire, lumber, concrete, glass, steel, petroleum products. All of these commodities assembled in the form of a house sitting on a piece of land. That's the greatest investment ever, the most historically proven asset class in the entire world and entire history of the world. 20 years ago, all of the products that consumers bought were decided upon by stuffy executives in boardrooms in big consumer products companies. Now, it's you. I mean, you're deciding what products impact people's lives. I say it on my podcast all the time. It's an amazing time to be alive. Say that with me. It's an amazing time to be alive. And you know, the funny thing is, I didn't even connect that saying to amazing.com, our host, until Friday. I was sitting in the audience and I was thinking, here I'm at amazing.com. And I always say, it's an amazing time to be alive on my shows. So we have this democratization of literally everything where the gatekeepers have gone away. Think about history for a moment. Think about the history of something I call access. Access was always controlled by gatekeepers. If you had something to say, if you had an idea, if you had an opinion, if you had a cause, you had to go to some book publisher, and some literary agent would vet you, and some publisher would decide whether or not your ideas get published. You had a manuscript, and they'd look at it and they'd sit on it for 2 years, and then they'd change the title and re-edit the whole meaning of it. Now you can go direct to the. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Adam.
Hey.
How you doing?
Doing great.
Good. Hey,
live, awake, alert, and drinking water.
It's an amazing time to be alive. And, you know, I was thinking about this after I invited you to be on this morning. And thanks for joining us, by the way. You don't drink coffee, do you?
No, I don't.
Well, this is coffee talk.
What a talk.
Coffee talk. Well, water is really good for you. I'm a big water fan too. So I'm not going to get on your case about drinking water because it's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Adam, hey, there's a lot going on in the world. We've got a couple of properties we want to talk about. Inflation. How about a little MMT discussion? I think that'd be kind of fun.
Always happy to talk.
Yeah. So you just finished this book that you really, really liked about modern monetary theory. Tell us about it.
Are you talking about the deficit myth?
I don't know.
Kelton's
I don't remember the title, but yeah, I think so.
I think you were talking about Stephanie Kelton's new book. I mean, she's one of the leading voices in MMT. She was right up there with Randall Ray, who you've had on your show, Bill Mitchell, Warren Moser, who's like the king of MMT.
So are you saying Mike Norman is not the king of MMT?
He's actually big. He's big in there. I used to, back in the early 2000s, man, I wish I was more into economics back then, because he had a 2-hour radio show on the radio station I worked at, and he would have Warren Moser on his show about once a week, and they would just talk MMT for 2 hours. But wow. I didn't care about it back then.
Yeah. And
so it was, they would talk about it in terms of investing and all of that stuff. But she has a book, and she was the chief economic advisor to Bernie Sanders, which I'm sure you love.
Oh, yeah, boy. I'm really going to give her a lot of credit for that one.
Although Bernie Sanders is still talking like he doesn't understand it. So I don't know.
Well, he doesn't understand economics in the least. Of course he doesn't understand it.
Yeah, the basic premise is that very, very basic premise is the issuer of the currency, whether they're the world reserve currency or not, if they are monetarily sovereign, meaning they print their own currency, they don't have debt in other currencies, and they're monetarily sovereign, you can always pay the debt that you have. And as long as the government doesn't start competing with the private sector for resources, your inflation is going to stay low, because inflation happens in the hyperinflation like you see in Venezuela and the Weimar Republic, all of the things you always hear about, the big ones, those happened because the government started competing with the private sector for resources. In Weimar, it was because of reparations for World War II.
Well, yeah, we all know that story. That's if you look up, by the way, listeners, watchers, viewers, if you look up the word inflation in Wikipedia, you will see a fantastic picture. I wish I had it handy, of a woman in the Weimar Republic, post World War I, Weimar Republic, Germany, shuffling German marks into a furnace. Did I say shuffling? I meant shoveling. With a shovel and putting them in there because it was literally more efficient to extract the heat from the currency. Can you imagine doing this with dollar bills? Someday you might be, right? It was more efficient to extract the heat from them than it was to exchange them for firewood. I mean, that's absolutely mind-boggling, isn't it, Adam?
You told me about the wheelbarrow on the podcast recently, didn't you?
Yeah, the wheelbarrow is a pretty good story too. Yeah, obviously, I mean, a lot of people know this history, so it's not necessarily new. But they used to have a carry a wheelbarrow full of currency, full of German marks, to buy a loaf of bread. Quite literally, that's how.
Oh, it was a different podcast I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I'll get to the other story. You're talking about the one where, well, you can tell the story.
Yeah, so there was a person going to buy bread and had their wheelbarrow full of money, and they wheeled it in, but it couldn't fit in the door. So they left it outside, and somebody came up, grabbed the wheelbarrow, dumped it out, stole the wheelbarrow because it was worth more than all the money inside.
Right. Forget about the money. I got to dump the money, or we should call it currency to be accurate, okay? The currency, dump the currency, and then run away with a wheelbarrow. Because, and the lesson, there are a couple lessons here that are really pretty important, folks, is that commodities have intrinsic value. Currency does not. Currency only has value because of people's belief system, or because it's directly exchangeable for a commodity like gold or silver, right? But that's not true anymore. Anywhere in the world that I know of, at least. Certainly not true in the US since 1971. So the commodities that have intrinsic value and utility are useful. The wheelbarrow was useful, right? The heat was useful, but the currency was a different story. Anyway, Adam, I got to tell you something about MMT. You and the proponents out there are moving the needle just a little bit. I'm not going to say I'm a believer. But what's interesting about it is this, a lot of millennials like yourself love MMT, and I mostly think it's a fantasy, okay? Because
the way a lot of people talk about it is a fantasy.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll let you get to that in a moment. But it seems too good to be true, and here's what I mean by that. It seems like MMT's thesis is that the government can just spend money all it wants, all the social programs you want, all the free stuff, and not worry about debt or deficits. And that to me is a fantasy, because
yes,
hang on, let me finish for a second. Because you can't spend your way to prosperity. That's never been done before, right? But what is interesting is this. Of course, the US is in a very unique position because it has the reserve currency of the world. And I say it is going to keep that reserve currency status for a long, long, long time. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, Russia and China are trading outside of the dollar along with Brazil. Big deal. Who cares? No big deal. China has 1 aircraft carriers. We have 12. Okay, so whoever has the most aircraft carriers and the biggest war machine is ultimately going to win at the end of the day, right? But forget about that, okay? So what's interesting about it is this, is that when you have a taxing agency, ours is, of course, the IRS, and other taxing agencies, and when you've loaned money to so many other countries around the world, and you require that debt be repaid in your currency, in this case, dollars, and you require that those taxes be paid every year in your currency, dollars, then you do have the effect of strengthening the dollar, of course. Now, it seems a little bit like a Ponzi scheme. I'm not sure how long that can go on. I don't know that anybody is, because, hey, we're in uncharted territory. Now, that's how you've moved the needle a bit on the MMT theory. But go ahead, Adam. Say what you.
So one of the big things that MMT kind of turns around is she calls it the tabs and the stab. So it's a lot of people that you tax and borrow and then spend. It's kind of how they think of it. Like, the government has to collect the taxes and then, sell bonds to China, and then we can afford Social Security, or we can afford, healthcare or whatever. When in reality, the government spends and then it taxes and borrows, because the government has to give us money before we can do anything. And all the national debt is the amount of money throughout the history of the nation that has been put into the economy that hasn't been taxed back yet. So that's all that it is. It's nothing that's being passed down from generation to generation. And my kids are going to have to pay off. My kids don't owe $75,000 or whatever it is at this point.
Well, what you're getting to, what you're alluding to there, you should explain that, is that you have 4 kids, and every kid that's born in the U.S. now, if you look at the amount of the debt, right, is born owing money. In essence, they have to be productive in the economy and pay tax to pay that government's debt, right? And this is true of any country, not just us. What? Go ahead. That's what you're talking about. But
that's not true, is the thing.
Well, you're saying it's not true because of MMT, but others who are just doing the math would say, the typical kid is born owing like $85,000, right? But why is it not true? Yeah. This is MMT theory. Go ahead.
Because, like I said, it's just an accounting figure of how much the government has put in that hasn't been taxed back. If you look at it, it's actually government spending is private sector savings. Because every accounting entry, if there's a deficit on one side, there's a surplus on the other. It's one of the reasons why, with the way our country is in terms of running a trade deficit, the balanced budget amendment, or when we run surpluses, every time we've done that in the past, it's ended in a recession. Because it literally means if we run a balanced budget or a surplus, we are removing money from the economy. And the only way that we can do that as people is to pay more in taxes than we get from the government. And so they are, by definition, they are shrinking the economy by doing that, because we are an import nation. We take in more in goods than we send out in goods. If we were running a trade surplus, we could do it potentially and it wouldn't harm us, wouldn't harm our economy. But because we take in more than we send out, we have money outflowing to China, to Vietnam, wherever we're sending it to. And our government, if they run a balanced budget or a surplus, is taking more from us than they're giving us. And then suddenly, as pretty much everybody else in the United States, and we're out of luck and our economy shrinking. And that's the definition of a recession or depression.
Adam, your connection is cutting out occasionally. And folks, does it seem to you that whenever your phone drops for a moment, or the internet drops for a moment, and you're talking on a Zoom meeting or whatever, you always lose them at the most important word in the sentence. That's the word you miss. And that's what it feels like.
Yeah, so it's especially interesting since I'm hardwired into Google Fiber.
Right. Yeah, I know you do have Google Fiber, and I'm envious. You're in Austin, Texas, by the way. But if you have anything syncing on your computer, please turn it off. Okay, that might be it. If you have Dropbox syncing or something like that. So yeah, very, very interesting, Adam. I mean, I will admit that MMT thing is starting to fascinate me a bit. Now, hey, folks, wait, hang on. This interactive show here, we got some questions and comments. Okay, so I love this handle, by the way. A constant watcher. My tinfoil hat says, seems like MMT is Ray Dalio's cash basis for cash is trash. Do you know Ray Dalio has been saying that? And by the way, he's been massively wrong. at least so far. Now, ultimately, I think he'll be right because of inflation. But Adam, comment on that?
I don't know how
You don't know
that.
what he said. Okay, all right. Now, Money Therapy says MMT. Okay, is that Evan using a handle there? It looks like Evan. And then Justin is mentioning. Justin, are you in the mortgage business? The 1.99%, and I didn't know there was another 9 there. I just thought 1.99% mortgage has some strings attached. Yeah, but you can qualify with a FICO score as low as 640. Of course, that's owner-occupied mortgage. That's just insane. I don't know if everybody can achieve that rate, but it's, the point is rates are insanely low. We're in an environment of negative interest rates where you're literally getting paid to borrow money. And we'll explore that a little bit more in the show. Adam, any thoughts?
In regards to the interest rates,
regards to whatever. We're just, we got, by the way, we've got people from France. Christophe, thanks for joining us from France. And we got Enid from Vancouver, British Columbia. That is a beautiful city. I love BC. Good stuff. And Chad says hello. And Gawachi says hi. And Eric says hi. Hey, thanks for listening. Please post your comments wherever you're watching from. And also, can you folks do us a favor and post a comment and tell us where you're watching from? Are you watching on YouTube? Are you watching on one of our Facebook pages, in a Facebook group? Just comment and let us know where you're watching from, because we'd love to know where most people are seeing us. And a lot of people I know don't watch live directly, but we love the live people because it's interactive and fun. Adam, anyway, you got a ton of stuff there, so take it wherever you want.
Oh, I was going to say, in terms of the rates, I mean, even if you get a point higher than that, you're looking at an incredible rate. I mean, we did a cash out refi on our primary residence about a month ago when the interest rates were higher than they are now. And, we got 2.99% on our primary taking out cash. So, I mean, if you can get it, now's the time. I mean, now is definitely the time.
It's truly unbelievable. The money is free. You're getting paid to borrow. Oh, Justin is in Maryland. Hey, Justin, thank you. And Peter says, we are doing MMT now, and doing MMT now and will work out great until it doesn't. That's a good comment, Peter. That's what I think. I agree with you, but Adam's going to disagree. Right, Adam?
I mean, MMT is just, the theory itself is sound. The question is just how our politicians use it. I mean, that's the thing, is if there is a limit to the deficit we can run. We can't provide more healthcare than we have doctors and nurses. We can't provide more freeways than we have laborers. And one of the big things that is the kind of the one thing that every MMT leader believes in is the job guarantee. It's kind of called the inflation controller. It would be tough to have in this time during COVID, just because you can't really go out and work. But the job guarantee is designed to eliminate unemployment, because unemployment is just caused, there's the natural rate of unemployment, which means that literally they don't think everybody can possibly have a job at the same time. But the theory is,
in other words, you're always going to have some slackers.
not even slackers, because the unemployment, to qualify for unemployment, you have to be seeking a job.
Yeah.
If you're slacking and you don't want a job, you're not counted in unemployment. You're just lazy.
You're considered a discouraged workers, which they conveniently don't count.
Yeah.
So the unemployment rate is always higher, and the inflation rate is always higher than the government would have us believe. So that's cool. Look at all these people. 100% Italian in Miami. Oh, we need to know that. Hey, I'm 16% Italian, so there you go. Good stuff on Facebook. Thanks for watching. All right. So yes, it's always understated. No question about that. Yeah, what were you saying about the discouraged workers?
So essentially what it advocates is that anybody who wants a job can go to an agency, a government agency, and and L. Randall Ray discussed this way better than I do whenever he was on your podcast. But if you want a job, you go to a local office, say, I'm looking for a job, and they'll say, these are the jobs we have available. And it's essentially any societal issue, any social issue that we have that needs to be worked on, we can do. From, you say you're hired, the federal government pays the local authority for your salary. It sets the minimum wage, because they'll say, you know, as a lot of people are advocating, say they pay $15 an hour. Then if the private company isn't willing to pay you $15 an hour, you're not likely to go work for them. All they have to do to get you, for the most part, is offer you $15.01. And a lot of people will leave and go do that. So it'll set the floor from the minimum wage. Anybody who wants a job can get it. If you don't want a job, then you're not unemployed. You're just, like I said, not working. You would still have like your Medicare and Medicaid and all of the social programs on the side. So,
Adam, did you post in our guest request group the MMT authors? Because
I did. I requested Stephanie Kelton. I don't know. She's doing a book tour, I believe, right now, so she's probably pretty slammed.
Okay, cool. Well, it's pretty fascinating stuff for sure. Ben is asking here on the screen, did the theory just break due to our current reality? I think Adam is probably going to say it's more true now or something, right, Adam? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is we've spent that $2.2 trillion, and it's not going to cause massive inflation, partially because we gave it. If you think about who we gave the money to, we gave the money to the workers, and so they could afford to stay in their house. And they're not competing for goods right now. All that they did is they took the money that they were given and they paid it to their property owners. They paid it to the bank just to stay in their house and stay in their homes. They bought food with it, it actually trickled the economy. It didn't just sit there. You know, if you give all of the money to the rich, we don't have to spend it. You know, if I get $1,200, like when we got our stimulus money, because we were up towards the top of the limit, so we didn't get the full amount. But guess what? It just went in our bank account. We didn't need it. You know, but if you give it to the lower end workers, they're the ones who need it.
Who will spend it. Yeah. Well, listen, I do agree with that. I'm so fed up with this corporate welfare and the Cantillon effect, which I talked about last week or the week before, which is absolutely just disgusting. I mean, it's ridiculous that all the billionaires get the bailouts and the common workers don't. That's just
Let them have cake.
Yeah. There's no bread, let them eat cake, right? As Marie Antoinette said. And obviously showed her complete insensitivity. But hey, she got the chopping block for that, so that was okay. Oh, good stuff. Okay, so let's go and let's look at some properties. Oh wait, we had a question here. Where did it go?
Talking about Devon, mass adoption of UBI.
No, I wasn't talking about that one, but I'll look for the other one while you grab that one. I think we are moving in a universal basic income direction for sure. The government's going to get a lot bigger, not better, just bigger. The government is going to massively increase in size out of this crisis, and they're going to increase their control and intrusion in our lives dramatically.
Yeah, I don't think most MMT people are advocating for a UBI just because that's paying people for contributing nothing to society, essentially. And that's why, if you want to get universal basic income, it's essentially go get a job at the job guarantee. We don't want to be giving money and potentially, starting competition for the goods and increasing inflation because of the fact that we're just giving money to people not randomly, but just for the sake of being alive. Mm-hmm.
I think this question went away. I don't know where it is now. I can't find it. But someone asked, and it was a good question, what do you think about the new refinance? I think it's the refinance fee. That
was Evan. Money therapy.
Yeah. Oh, that was money therapy. Okay, sorry, I can't find that question again. I don't know. There's so many here. But we were going to talk about that on the podcast. And yes, Fannie and Freddie are getting a little more greedy, so they're gonna raise the fees, but it's still an incredible bargain. So go borrow some money, folks.
Well, it's still, we were going to talk about this. It's 0.5% of the new loan value is going to be included in the refi fee, and this will slow down the refi market. And if you're able to pull out more cash, I mean, it'll it'll stem the flow of refis, which will then benefit the people who are willing or able to do it. So we will actually be, as real estate investors, competing against fewer resources, which us in the long run, I think.
You mean we're competing for fewer resources, but what do you mean? You mean there will be less cash out there? I don't understand.
Yeah, you'll have fewer people cashing out their refund, doing a cash out refi.
Okay.
And so they won't have as much money to pump into other investment properties or stocks or whatever they were going to do with it. And so we'll be competing with less money across the board. So it'll put real estate investors at an advantage. You know, if you have people who are potentially going to take out that cash out refi and buy an investment property or buy pretty much anything else, it's going to create less money in society. And so there's less competition.
Okay, so let's look at a couple of things there. So let me get to my proper screen share here. So we talked about this at Meet the Masters. We had our 22nd anniversary Meet the Masters of Income Property recently, but it was our first ever virtual event, and it was fantastic. So a lot of you watching probably attended that, and thank you for joining us. By the way, we will have the recordings soon, and this was one of the slides I shared during Meet the Masters. And you know, we talk a lot about inflation and my philosophy of what I call inflation-induced debt destruction. Adam knows it very well as one of our investment counselors. And what's interesting is that, you know, a lot of inflation goes unnoticed because of course, the way that the government maligns the statistics. They basically understate inflation because they use weighting, substitution, and hedonics, those three methods, weighting, substitution, and hedonics. When you look at the most widely used index for inflation, the Consumer Price Index, or the CPI, those are the three basic ways it's manipulated. It represents this basket of goods, and if they can fool the population into believing that inflation is lower than it really is, that is very beneficial for two major reasons. Number one, all the government salaries, and remember the government's about 20+% of the economy now, are indexed to inflation, and all the government entitlements are also indexed to inflation. So that's one big reason they want to understate inflation. But the other big reason, and there are more reasons than this, these are just the two biggies, is that it just generally makes the population, the electorate, feel better about things if we are led to believe, and we do believe, that inflation is relatively tame and low, right? So a lot of manufacturers of everything under the sun and service providers, have you noticed how so many things in our life are do-it-yourself nowadays? You know, if you tracked, for example, gasoline prices, when I was a kid, if you looked at gasoline prices, well, that was almost every gas station was full service. The idea of pumping your own gas was like insane. You know, people used to say, "Is that safe?" You know, what if we blow up the gas station? Someone will start a fire. Remember, a lot of people used to smoke, which is disgusting. A lot of people used to smoke in the old days too, and so no one would pump their own gas. But now you don't. Everybody, even billionaires, pump their own gas. Okay, you know, so you might index the price of a gallon of gas, but you're losing service. A lot of restaurants, now most of us don't even go to restaurants anymore, but you know, we used to a few months ago, and we're starting to again sometimes. They're like this self-service concept. Even nicer, more expensive restaurants, you walk up to a counter, you wait in line, and you order. You take a number and you stick it on your table, and maybe they deliver it, maybe they call the number and you go pick it up, and then you're still expected to leave a tip. And you didn't get any service. No one waited on us, right? It's crazy. So there are a lot of ways inflation that's in the system is hidden. So if you look at the screen, this is one way. And Adam, do you want to share some of these with us? I hope you can read that on your side, okay? If not, I can. But look at the size of all these items has decreased. So you're getting less stuff even though the price might be the same or higher. Can you see those?
I just have a funny story before we get into that in regards to pumping gas. My dad told me this story years ago of his mom was out driving and was about to run out of gas, and she didn't want to pay the price at the full service station, and so she was going to go and pump her own gas, but she didn't know what side of the car the gas tank was on, and so she actually went to the full service station, got a little bit of gas so she could see how it was done, and then she drove to the self-service and filled up her gas tank.
That is hilarious. Well, hey, that's like she had to hire a gas pumping tutor, basically.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, hey, share some of these weights and measures with us if you can see them on your screen, Adam. Just pick a couple of your favorite candies. I like Twix a lot. Toblerone.
I'll be honest. I eat my kids' Twix at Halloween, but
hey, Kit Kat's pretty good too.
All the prices have stayed about the same over the years, except for the sizes dropped. Snickers, which is one of my go-tos, has dropped 28.1% in size, and prices stayed roughly constant. I think my wife loves Toblerones, however you pronounce that. That's down 25% in size. I haven't had Yorkies before. I don't know what those are.
So, folks, if you're getting less but paying the same, guess what? That's a price increase. That's inflation. Don't be fooled. This has happened to bags of potato chips. It's happened to so many things in our lives. You're getting, I mean, look at rip-off college tuition. Harvard this year did not lower their price by even $1, although the kids are now going to be going to college looking at a computer screen. That is ridiculous. I love
Ben's comment over here.
What's that?
Ben C has a comment over here about your graphic. Says the grocery store shrink ray.
Shrink ray?
Yeah, he commented that your candy bar thing was the grocery store shrink ray.
Oh, you like the ray? I get it. Okay, yeah, got it.
Honey, you shrunk my candy bar.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, just understand that there's a lot of inflation in the system, folks. And we got some more good questions. Keep your questions and comments coming. Tell us we're wrong, we're crazy, we're right, or at least tell Adam he's crazy about MMT, and we will get to them. But let's
be the first time.
Adam, let's jump over and let's look at the way you fight this. Okay, look, if you've been following my philosophy for any length of time, and I've been talking about a lot of this stuff for about 17 years now, and that I believe, I guess I'm somewhat of a fatalist on this stuff, right? We are not going to change this. We can complain all we want. We can bitch about inflation and say the Federal Reserve is a scam and the government is wasting our money, and we're all going to be right about that. But at the end of the day, let's just be practical for a moment. What we need to do to defend ourselves against this, it's basically an attack on our wealth, okay, is we need to align our interests with the most powerful forces that the human race has ever known. What are those most powerful forces? They are governments and central banks, okay? Governments and central banks, the two most powerful forces the human race has ever known. I guess I'm excluding God, okay? The most powerful earthly forces, okay?
There you go.
So we need to align our interests with them. And their interest is inflationary. Their interest is to also keep the population happy by doling out goodies and buying votes. This is what politicians do. This is the system, the plan that has worked for a very, very long time, okay? And so what do? How do we defend ourselves against that? What is the best strategy? Well, I say it is to use the most historically proven asset class in the entire world and the most tax-favored asset class in America, and that, of course, is my favorite asset class, income property. So let's take a look at this for a moment. Now, this was interesting. One of our speakers at our 22nd anniversary Meet the Masters of Income Property conference was Harry Dent. He's been an economist and a New York Times bestselling author many, many times over for about 30 years. I've been following him for over 20 years. And look, like anybody, he's made some predictions that are right and some that are wrong. But that doesn't really matter too much, because you can still learn a lot from these people. For example, Peter Schiff is a guy that's in the media all the time. And I had him on my show years ago. And, he's super interesting to listen to. And I learn a lot from listening to him. But he's always wrong. And when I say always, he's been right about some things. Okay.
He's just been wrong the last 20 years.
Yeah. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? As the saying goes. So the point is not to necessarily agonize over these prognosticators, these economists, and their predictions. The point is to learn something from them and assimilate that knowledge in your own head and use it, okay? So this is a chart that Harry Dent shared. And by the way, this is not his chart, so this is not his prediction or anything. It's from Rent Cafe, okay? And what it shows you here is it shows you the age distribution of renters. And I think this is very interesting because typically throughout history, our renters, both Adam and I and all our clients are real estate investors. We love income property. We love being landlords because that's where the power is. That's where you get the money really working for you, okay? So traditionally, renters have always been young people, or maybe people recently divorced, right? And they're getting back on their feet from the financial devastation of divorce. And they're, going to buy a house and become a homeowner again once they get back on their feet, okay? But what's interesting now, and this has never really happened before in history, is that renters are aging dramatically. And baby boomers who are empty nesters, meaning the kids have moved out, who are retiring, about 10,000 people turn 65 every day in the US. This is the trend demographers have talked about. They call it the graying of America, okay? And as such, there is no longer a stigma of renting. There used to be kind of a stigma like, oh, you're not a homeowner. Well, you're clearly not getting ahead in life. Loser, right? Not anymore. That's totally changed. Renting is accepted, and it's really a great alternative nowadays, okay? In fact, I told the stories about when I first moved to Arizona and left the Socialist Republic of California back in 2011, I rented a very swanky high-rise penthouse apartment. And, the rent to value ratio, when you get into the higher end properties, is very, very much in favor of the tenant, not the landlord. And that's why we say, the ideal scenario where you can kind of double arbitrage this is to rent a high-end home for yourself and then buy and own lots of low-end properties that other people rent from you. That's where you get the best rent to value ratios on either side of the equation, okay? But take a look at this. So back in 2007, just 13 years ago, in the age group of 60 and over, okay, your rental population for that group was 6.6 million people. And if you can see where my mouse is, hopefully it's, not large, depends what kind of screen you're looking at, right? And then the middle age group, 35 to 59, was, the big part, that's 16.3 million people. And then under 34 and under was 14 million people. Now, we'll just fast forward to 2025. Well, just look what happened in 10 years. That's amazing that over 60 demographic in 10 years grew by about a third, okay, to 9.4 million people. And let's just watch the over 60 demographic. That's really the important one here, okay? In 2025, it's projected to be 13 million people. But in 2035, it's projected to double in size from 2017 to 18.6 million people, basically double. And it's basically triple what it was in 2007. This, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely a staggering chart. Now, you know, it may not look staggering to you, but this is huge. It's a tectonic shift, okay, in the kind of rental population. I used to say about 8 years ago, well, no, I guess about 10 years ago, I probably used to say this. Well, about 11 years, about 9-10 years ago. Because you know how I always remember my life is, where did I live? You know, what house was I living in? And as I was talking on a podcast, I just visually associate my surroundings when I was recording, and then I can mark the date pretty well. So it was about 2011, I was saying that over the next 10 years, the demographics coming at the rental market are extraordinary. They're phenomenal. And you know what? I am now renewing that prediction, because when you look at a chart like this, and I don't know if I'm even pointing the right way, but on my screen, it's there. Okay. I don't know if it's there for you. This is staggering. I mean, the rental population is phenomenal. This bodes so well for landlords. Adam?
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the raw numbers, we've got 25 million more people, from what I can see here. 25 million more people competing for properties. And it makes sense. I mean, with the graying of America, you've got a lot of people who are still in good enough shape that they don't want to move into a retirement home, don't want to go, but they also can't do the fixes that they, might need to do to their property. So if you can't do the home projects, you sell your home and you go rent one, somebody else's problem to fix the issues around your house.
Sure. And, there's a lot more. My other prediction is, and I've talked about this on the Creating Wealth podcast, is that there's a lot more aging in place going on, because people are much more independent for until much later in life. I mean, the healthiness aspect is kind of a mixed bag, because some of the population is extremely unhealthy, but other parts of the population extremely health conscious, and doing a very good job aging very well. But regardless of the health consciousness, the other part is technology. Having things like, and I can't say it out loud, I have to spell it, but Alexa, oh, she didn't go off. Okay. And having an Apple Watch, and all of these things, remember that old commercial, I've fallen and I can't get up, right? And you buy this really ugly necklace for your grandparents, right? And they could push a button and say, I've fallen and I can't get up. But now that's just embedded in our technologies, like in the phone. I can keep track of, where is my mom? Is she moving around, right? She won't wear an Apple Watch, but I'd like her to get one. And there's a lot more technology that can protect people aging in place. So that's another factor, definitely another factor. Adam, I want to switch to a couple of the properties that you sent me that you wanted to talk about today. So let's take a look at this, okay? What I did, and there are two, I cut these in half so they'd be large enough to view. So the second slide will contain the second half of this property. And let's take a look at this, Adam. Now, you picked two of them to talk about today. Tell us more.
Yeah, so this one, the reason I picked it is it's got good numbers on it, but it's a turnkey property available in Memphis. And Memphis right now, we used to have a ton of inventory, but they changed their they changed their eviction and foreclosure rules. So we're just not getting many these days. And so since we got one in and it has good numbers, I wanted to share it with everybody so that they could see what's there. And this is it's a nice little house, 3-bed, 1-bath, $80,000, which is on the lower end of what you'll see in Memphis, probably a solid C neighborhood based on the price point. But you can see that it's the front. If you look at it on Google Street View and then here, they did a great job making the outside a lot more presentable after they bought the property. So it's renting for.
Right. Oh, you're saying because of remodeled. All of our properties, by the way, I mean, when I say all, 99% of our properties are completely remodeled and rent ready. Okay, or they're even rented in advance. So
let me go get a different computer and log in.
Okay.
I'm getting a lot of breakup.
Well, don't log out. You don't need to log out. So just go ahead and get your other one fired up, and then. Okay. So I will take you through this one, folks. So this property is $80,000, if you can see where my mouse is, okay? And it'll take, subject to qualifying, of course, about $24,600. I own several properties in the Memphis market myself. They've been great. I really like this market. And we're in many markets across the country, so this is just one example. But about $88 per square foot. And projected rent is $750 a month. Now, we try to get close to a 1% rent to value ratio, meaning if it's an $80,000 house, if you can get $800 a month, you're at 1% rent to value ratio. So this is pretty darn close, okay? And you've got your vacancy rate imputed into this, and I'm just going to go to the bottom half of the page here. All of the expenses are in here: property taxes, insurance, management fees for a property manager, and so forth. And your projected, after all these expenses, monthly cash flow is $175 or $2,100 per year. And what that does, let's go over to this side of the page. And that may not sound like a big deal, but try owning a couple dozen of these, and it gets to be a pretty big deal pretty quickly. And this is why income property is the most historically proven wealth creator in the entire world. It's also the most tax-favored asset class in America, and taxes are the largest single expense in any of our lives. Okay, so let's look at the overall projected return on investment. 32% annually. 32% annually. Okay. That's with the $175 a month in positive cash flow. The reason that translates so beautifully well is because income property is a multi-dimensional asset class. You earn your return on investment from many sources. Of course, hopefully you're going to have positive cash flow. You're going to have equity buildup where your tenant is paying off your mortgage for you. You're going to have tax benefits. You're going to have leverage. You're going to have inflation-induced debt destruction. You're going to have the ability to 1031 tax-deferred exchange when you ultimately liquidate the property. Remember, if you have a business you've sold, when you sell that business, you have to pay tax. If you have stocks you sell them, you pay tax. You pay capital gains tax. If you have precious metals, artwork, any sort of investment, capital gains tax. Income property, you can trade it on a 1031 tax deferred exchange for your entire life and never pay the tax. You get to reinvest your profits on a tax deferred basis and let them grow for you. That is absolutely huge. So it's an incredible investment. It's one that's made me millions of dollars, and I just love it. Adam, are you back with us? How's your technology doing there? I see you on twice. You're muted once, and yeah, go ahead. Oh wait, I've got to add you. So there you are.
Hey.
I can tell you've got two different camera angles going here.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
You
want to tell us about this property?
Absolutely. So this property is, I heard what you were saying about it, but it's one of the few, as I mentioned, turnkey that you're going to find in Memphis at the time. So we've got, and you can see the interest rate is low. It's It's actually probably accurate though, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a solid property. I didn't hear everything you said because I was out running around trying to update the computer.
Sure.
So apologies for that.
Okay, good stuff. So let's talk about the next property. We got one more, and you know what? Before we do this, let's take some questions. Okay, we'll break it up a little bit here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, where could
we had a question above about where should Canadians move their RRSPs?
Yeah, I was going to check that out. Currently in financial institutions. Well, I don't really understand that question completely, but certainly what we would say is, buy yourself some good income properties. We have a lot of Canadian clients buying U.S. real estate, so as a foreign national, it is harder to obtain the great financing that Americans get, the subsidized financing we get, but you can still do some pretty good stuff. It's not bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
it takes a little bit more down usually. I think most of what I've seen has been 30% down, and it usually has to have a little bit higher loan size. If you're going through, the conventional loans, you can probably get other deals. I haven't dealt with anybody getting a portfolio loan for this, but getting a conventional loan, usually it's, your property has to be about 140,000 just for the loan size value.
Because in other words, they don't want to do loan amounts under $100,000, right?
Yeah. Right. So your property usually has to be like 130, 140,000, and you're going to have to put 30% down to get the loan.
Okay, cool. Okay, Rob is asking, thoughts on federal eviction moratoriums, the CARES Act, executive orders? You probably meant to say et cetera there, because there's a lot. So I'm not sure if I published this on my podcast last week or if it might be coming up next week. I think I did it Thursday, where we had an expert on the CARES Act and the HEROES Act on the show. So check that out. But the point being that there's always another aid package, government program, or bailout on its way. Okay, this is especially in an election year. You are going to have government goodies, like crazy. So I don't think you need to worry about that. But there have been some eviction moratoriums for sure, and some foreclosure moratoriums. And basically, what that becomes is a game of what I call trickle-up economics, as opposed to trickle-down economics. And what I mean there is that every contract in the world starts to get renegotiated. It's like a game of hot potato, So the tenant says, "Well, I can't pay my mortgage." Then you go to your lender and you say, "Well," or the tenant says, "I can't pay my rent," and you go to your lender and say, "Well, I can't pay my mortgage because the tenant's not paying the rent." And then the mortgage company has probably pooled those mortgages into a pool that's securitized, and they just don't pay their shareholders. And then the government comes along and bails everybody out. That's certainly what happened last time around. But the interesting thing you hear about these rent strikes is that this is not really affecting, it's certainly not affecting me, and it's not affecting our clients, at least not very much. Adam, you can speak to that. This tends to be happening in the larger institutional apartments. I want you to remember something when you're comparing, and I own them both, and I've owned many of them both over the years too, but I also currently, where I have multifamily housing. And the one thing I really don't like about that is that the tenants get together and they talk and they create a mutiny, a rent strike. And that has been happening to some extent in apartments across the country. But in the single family homes, it's not that common. I'm not hearing much of that at all. I was very concerned when I first heard about eviction moratoriums that this might happen and it might just sweep across my portfolio and the portfolios of our investors, but it hasn't materialized. Adam, have you had any clients, even one, talk to you about this?
I've had some concerns, but nobody has actually had the problems. And I think it relates back to, I don't remember if it's commandment 21 or 22 that you gave about investing in, or maybe even 23 at this point, investing in low density areas.
Yeah.
You're not going to have, for instance, in a neighborhood that's 70, 80% owner occupied, I don't really know around me who the people are who are renting. So it's hard to go to them and say, hey, let's have a rent strike. Let's do this, let's do that. But also, if it gets that terrible, and we were going to talk about forbearance on the list, they're giving the loan holders an out. And it used to be when it first started, when COVID issues first started, going into forbearance was going to impact you enormously in terms of getting a new loan. I think whenever I talked to one of the lenders, he was saying if you went into forbearance, you couldn't get a new loan until 6 or 12 months after you got out of forbearance.
So what? Let me just back that up a little bit. So what Adam's saying there is, if you are actively wanting to purchase more properties, like our investors, they're accumulating these great suburban rental properties as there's this mass migration out of high density urban areas to suburban markets, right? And so as they're accumulating those properties, they thought, oh, well, I can just go into forbearance on the properties I already have. No, you can't. They're not going to let you have it both ways. So if you're not planning on buying anything for, a couple of years, then, hey, go into forbearance program and pay later. Why pay now when you can pay later? But if you want to be actively investing, you're not going to be able to do forbearance.
But it's changed now, is what I was saying, is when it first started, it was that way. It was going to be, after you came out of forbearance, it was going to be a year. Now, I just was texting with a lender this morning, and he told me, no, as soon as you're out of forbearance, as soon as you've caught up on your payments, you're eligible. It's kind of like at the Great Recession right before, how as long as you're out of bankruptcy for a day, you can get a loan. Yeah. Now it's, as soon as you've caught up on all your payments and you can show your income and proof of income and all of that, boom, you're eligible. So as it gets more of a problem for society as a whole, they start bailing out people, and that includes us as property owners. Right.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to see a big move toward universal basic income. Certainly if the Democrats, the Hippocrats, win the election. Republicans are hypocrites too, but Democrats are worse. And if they win, we're going to see a much stronger push toward universal basic income. We're also going to see a massive expansion of housing assistance through either the Section 8 program that's already been in existence for many years, or a new program, a new type of housing aid program. And by the way, yes, Rob, good point about landlord-friendly states. Some of this stuff is or could be national, but no matter what, you want to be in landlord-friendly states. And thank you for telling us you're watching on YouTube from New Jersey. And New Jersey is definitely not a landlord-friendly state. If you want to find the landlord-friendly states and jurisdictions to be a landlord, go to jasonhartman.com and click on the properties page at jasonhartman.com, and you'll see some good landlord-friendly states. Thanks for the question. Devin is commenting, the Federal Reserve is the fourth branch of government. Yeah, I would agree with you. Sadly, it kind of is. We've got the three branches of government which keep everything in balance and constitutional, if you will. But the Federal Reserve is like another branch. And what I would argue is maybe a fifth branch, big tech. These big evil tech companies
Jason's favorite people
that we're using right now. I love to constantly attack the big tech companies because they are abusing their power. They'll be shutting off this live stream here in just a moment.
I was going to say, you wonder why YouTube pulled down your first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Federal Reserve is just an extension of the Treasury. So they've got all the he who controls, what is it? He who controls the purse string controls the decisions, or something like that.
Well, there's a lot of ways to say that, but the golden rule is he who has the gold makes the rules. And Be careful, because we might get some feminists attacking us for that. So better say she who has.
We'll use thou who controls.
How? Old-fashioned language there, though. Okay, so Devin's got another comment here. It would be interesting to overlay that bar graph with a line showing the change in supply. Well, Devin, you're right. That's a good point. I was also thinking that it would be interesting to overlay that with the change in population as well, because, of course, folks, the Jason Hartman question, if you've been following my work. And what is that? The question is, compared to what? Compared to what? That is the Jason Hartman question. That my listeners have dubbed it that, because it is very, very important. Always ask yourself, compared to what? And I think that's a very good point, Devin. So yes, you're right. I agree with you completely. Okay, want to get in this property, then we'll get back. We got a bunch more questions. Thank you.
Yeah, we can. So the one in Lincoln now, I want to talk about the Lincoln market in general before we go there, because we have a lot of people who I've talked to who, when they first come to it and they think of Alabama, they think, rednecks, hillbillies, all of that stuff, and not necessarily a place with a really good economy, which it actually does. And so let me tell you a little bit about a specific market and the population growth since 1960. And we'll go by census year. So from 1960 to 1970, 79.2% growth. 1970 to 1980, 84.6% growth. 1980 to 1990, 41.3% growth. 1990 to 2000, 55.6% growth. 2000 to 2010, 36.9% growth. And
incredible. Is that Lincoln specifically, or
that is in Lincoln? That is Lincoln itself. And not only is the population growing, but from the 2000 census to the 2010 census, the median family income grew 14.2%.
Now, you know what our very smart viewers are going to be asking about that question, right?
Compared to what?
No, well, yeah, compared to inflation. Is that inflation adjusted?
No, this was just the straight numbers. Now, the poverty rate is right in line with the national average. Mm-hmm. It's got a big manufacturing plant from Honda that does that. And actually, as we were talking about the population density, it is right in line with the median density for the US, but it's way less than your bigger cities. It has 284 people per square mile. New York has 27,000 as a compared to.
Yeah, right.
So, and a lot of our markets have 800, 900 people. So it's a less dense area, and people are flocking to it for 60 years now because of that. And so it's a market that the numbers for new construction are good. It's a little outside of Talladega, and it's in the Birmingham Talladega MSA that is the 50th largest in the country.
Right, and MSA, of course, means Metropolitan Statistical Area. Okay, good. That is impressive population growth. Folks, I got to tell you something. My mother lives in Alabama, and when she built her southern mansion there several years ago, I thought, are you crazy? Why would you move to Alabama, But Alabama's pretty business friendly. Huntsville is like the center for the space program along with the Space Coast here in Florida.
Don't even get me started on Huntsville demographics.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. I mean, there's a huge concentration of doctorates, PhD holders there. These are not. It's not what you think, folks. I mean, Gulf Shores is like a beautiful vacation area. It's a huge spring break destination. It has a lot to offer. Adam, tell us. Well, are you done with the demographic information, which is phenomenal?
Yeah, those were the main points I wanted to get across. Was just don't discount Alabama for being Alabama.
Yeah, and please post that in our content group, because I want to talk about that on the podcast a little more. And let's talk about this sweet home Alabama.
So it's important to know whenever you're going here is our numbers in Alabama are actually rented out properties. So these aren't guesses. by our market specialists. These are rents that they're actually getting. So this property is a brand new construction, finished within the last month and ready for rent. They're ready for purchase, already tenanted out. Probably haven't checked it. It's probably rented out through, they didn't say here, but usually they sign 12 to 24 month leases with this property manager. It's 189.9 because we don't like to make things around 1,000, for for mental purposes.
That's not us. That's the seller.
Oh yeah, I know, but I just meant us as a society and as a people.
That's weird. I know.
And so it's renting out for just under $1,400 a month, which is solidly in line with incomes in the area. They can afford that in the 30 to 40% rent range, and it's expected to get a cash flow after everything's said and done of 8% vacancy and 8% maintenance, or 8% management taken out. We take our maintenance fee out, and we end up getting a cash flow of $277 a month.
Wait, Adam, you're on the other slide.
Oh, apologies.
Make the visuals match up with what we're talking about here. So
yeah,
so let me just take you through this pro forma a little bit, folks. So square footage, price,
the cost per square foot per construction is
for new
relatively cheap compared to most construction costs. Like you'll see most of them around 110, 115, maybe even up to 130.
Yeah, and if you're in the Socialist Republic of California, that's going to be like 170 a foot just to build it. Yeah. Okay, if not more. Okay, so here we've got about just round that off to $55,000 that'll take to buy it, subject to qualifying with 25% down. So pretty darn conservative there. Projected rent $13.95. Here are all your expenses here, and this is all according to the seller, of course. And then the cash flow projected at $276 per month, or $3,300 per year. Let's go over here to this section, financial indicators. Your debt coverage ratio. I didn't talk about this on the last property, and this is kind of an underlooked metric. Not a lot of people pay attention to debt coverage ratio. I'm not that concerned about it on properties I buy, but I think, with a common thinking that most people are thinking about, the debt coverage ratio should almost be called the how likely is it that I would ever get into trouble with this property ratio. Okay, that's the debt coverage ratio. And you've got a 1.41% debt coverage ratio, or 1.41 debt coverage ratio on a brand new construction property. Okay, so that's pretty darn good. The likelihood is that, even if you have vacancy and unexpected problem, you're going to be okay with a property like this. And the overall projected return on investment here is 32% annually. Okay, new construction. All your assumptions are in here of an appreciation at the national average of about 6%, vacancy rate of 1 month per year. Watch out for these hokey promoters out there that lie and act like the property will never be vacant. We always perform a 1 month per year vacancy. That's about 8%. Management fee of 8%. Now, of course, you can self-manage your properties, and we are really big on teaching people how to do that, by the way. Long distance self-management has been great for me and many of our other investors. And then maintenance. Remember, this is a brand new property. It's new. So you're probably not going to have any maintenance for the first couple of years, but you ultimately will. So we got 3% maintenance cost in this one. So pretty cool. Good stuff.
Yeah. The way I look at debt coverage ratio from what I've researched is as long as your number is over 1.2, you're going to have absolutely no trouble getting a loan from it. Whenever it gets below 1.2, you're getting sketchy. You may not get the loan from your bank.
Right. And by the way, I want to recommend if you go to jasonhartman.com, there is a 27-minute video on the front page. It's totally free. And if there's one video you ever watch or learn, like if you want to really just learn how to be a great investor in 27 minutes, that video is the one, okay? Because it takes you through every number on these performance, every single number. It goes through it. where I walk you through every number and you really learn how to analyze a real estate deal. You really do. So good stuff. Okay, so let's get back to some of these questions. And let me get there, Adam. I'm going to turn off the screen share. Okay, so where were we on these? We got a bunch more questions.
There's one about, isn't it better? Yeah, that one.
Yeah, you read my mind. So Christophe, you are in France. Hey, by the way, type in, what city are you in? Are you in Paris or somewhere else? And what's going on in France? Okay, Adam, what's the question here?
Isn't it better not to put money down in your deal? If you can get it.
Oh, great. Christophe, you know me too well. Yes, absolutely. I highly recommend leverage. I love mortgage debt. That's actually a big part of the asset. When you can get 3-decade-long fixed rate, ultra cheap debt below the rate of real inflation, borrow all the money you possibly can. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it.
That's how you get infinite return.
Yes, that's how you get infinite return, by borrowing all the money. But the reality is, in the lending climate we have today, you're going to have to put down 20 to 25%. Okay. So, but yes, it's better to try and put the minimal down. You can. Okay. Chofo Show. What do you think of buying rental properties near Navy bases? Is renting to military? Okay, so that's a good question. And I've had many military tenants in my own properties over the years. I love military tenants, and I like military, former ex-military employees too. They're great people, disciplined, organized, good people. However, here's the downside. Number one, the military expands and contracts in size. They move their personnel around, and you are subject, it's just like having one big employer in a town. If that employer falls on bad times, you could really shrink your renter pool. So I think it's okay, but I want to be diversified whenever possible. And the way you do that, by the way, is if you're buying 10 properties, then maybe you have 3 of them near a Navy base in this example, and then the other 7 are spread out into other markets. We always recommend that our investors, our clients, diversify into at least 3 markets, but not more than 5. Okay, so 3 cities at least, not more than 5 cities, and we can help you do that. And if you go to jasonhartman.com, click on the properties page, you'll see the markets that we're mostly recommending right now. We have others, and we have other properties too, but that'll just give you an idea. The one other thing I want to tell you about military tenants, if they are deployed, they are allowed to break their lease. So that can be a problem. Like, I have some properties in the Panhandle area of Florida that I've had for many years. And, I've had tenants break leases many times because if they got orders and they're deployed, they can break the lease. You can't hold them to it. Okay. So it's good and bad, but they're great tenants otherwise. Like, I've never had a military tenant, cheat me or act in a sleazy way. Now, certainly there are military people, I'm sure, that are like that, but I haven't encountered anybody like that. And, I've never had to evict one, at least not that I can think of. And I've never had one like really damage my property in any major way or anything like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, they know if they treat your property too terribly, it'll get to their commanding officer, and then they're in bad shape. So, I mean, your vacancy, as you mentioned, your vacancy rate might go up, but your maintenance, there's a pretty decent chance that your maintenance is going to go down just because they treat the property well. And if they have a family and they get deployed, they're most likely not going to break their lease, and then you'll have one less person in the house to cause any issues.
Yeah, and one less person in the house to repair any issues too. One of the screening tools is tenants that are handy. Okay, you want tenants that kind of take in quotes ownership, okay, and really look at it as their home, and they fix things and improve things. And a lot of times your tenants do that. You really get some great advantage out of having some good tenants like that. Okay, so Justin, what's the question from Justin, Adam?
Assuming all the numbers add up right on an investment property, what are your thoughts on buying property in great or good school districts versus the bad over the long or short term?
Ooh, that's a great question. And you know what? COVID 1984 is changing some of the rules. Adam hates when I do that. You don't like COVID 1984, do you?
I didn't say I didn't like it. I thought it's funny.
Oh, okay. All right. So, it's part of the plandemic. Where's the my tinfoil hat person? And then we can get into some conversations for sure. But, the real question is, how important is a school district in an era where we are having mass adoption of online learning? Which, look, the amazing thing is, if you follow my podcast, I've said many times that my favorite economist is Joseph Schumpeter, who talked about this concept of creative destruction. Okay, creative destruction. And creative destruction is when capitalism, as the brilliant method of capitalism, and really Adam Smith's invisible hand too, go in and constantly improve things and make them better, right? And they destroy old things and bring in new things. Well, the interesting thing is, the idea of online learning has been with us for easily 20 years. Okay, it's not new. The concept of doing Skype and Zoom, these are not new technologies. They've been there, but people weren't using them very much. And now everybody's using them. Even, people who don't consider themselves tech savvy, older people, whatever, right? Everybody's using it. It's like mass adoption. Okay. And so how important is it that your kids be in a good school district if really we're moving to online learning? And I think we are. Even if this blows over next year, if there's a vaccine, whatever, I think the world has changed. This is a fundamental shift. Okay, a fundamental shift the way here. Bless you, Adam. You're not wearing a face mask. You got to wear a face mask to be on our show. But yeah, it's a fundamental shift. So I would say that, as I've been saying on my podcast since 2012, location is less meaningful than it's ever been in human history. Now, it still matters, but it doesn't matter as much. And I think we're going to find the school district concept being disrupted. And I think it's about time it be disrupted. So I think that's really good news. Adam, do you have any thoughts?
Well, the only thing I would say is, and this is a very generalized statement, is that most likely your good schools or your good school districts are going to be in your higher grade neighborhoods.
That's true.
So, yeah. I mean, if I have a choice between a $120,000 house in a B neighborhood as opposed to a C neighborhood, I'm going to take the B neighborhood every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah. Yep. That's good. Good point. Good point. Okay. Good morning, gold color. Okay. So another question from Chofo Show. What does that name mean anyway? Okay. So have you ever...
I'm assuming heard
or seen, yeah, anything about new homeowners signing loan docs saying they cannot apply for forbearance? I have heard that. I don't know. I haven't signed any loan docs during the pandemic.
My clients who have signed haven't been required to sign anything so far.
They haven't told you that. They
right.
At least haven't mentioned it to you. Yeah.
I would assume if they got a note from their loan officer saying, "Hey, you need to sign this," that I would hear about it.
Yeah.
You're like, what, Adam? What are they doing?
Here's an interesting question. What do you think?
Absolutely not. No lender is gonna take gold as a down payment.
Well, maybe. It's not the lender taking the gold; it's the seller ultimately.
Oh, you're talking about paying cash with gold?
Yeah. People do it around the world. That's common. I have a friend that developed a bunch of properties in Vietnam, and he said the buyers would come in to buy the properties with gold. They would literally have like a suitcase with gold in it, and they would put it across the table and buy the property. That's how they would do it.
I could see that in other places, but with the U.S., I mean, you're just going to have to, if you want to do anything with it, you're going to have to change your gold into dollars anyway. So I think it'd be a tough sell.
Yeah. He thought you were talking about Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh, sorry, Lincoln, Alabama.
Yeah. So where does Lincoln get their power? What is it? I don't know the answer to that question, Adam. Yeah. Oh, Lincoln, Alabama. There, you caught that. Okay. Good. Okay. What is raw land at? What do you mean? What is it at? As an investment, I don't like it. It doesn't produce income. Remember my concept, folks. If it doesn't produce income, it's not an investment. That's how you know. You'll know something's an investment by whether or not it produces income. If you buy a gold bar, if you buy raw land, if you buy Bitcoin, if you buy non-dividend paying stocks, anything that doesn't produce income is a gamble. It is a speculation. It is not an investment. Investments produce income. Okay? Everything else is speculative. Now, does that mean you can't win speculating sometime? Nope. You can. Sometimes I take a gamble and I win, and I do something speculative. But for most people, who are either starting out or don't have a substantial amount of wealth, don't gamble. Invest in assets that produce income. We've all heard a lot over the past couple of decades about the word sustainability, usually as it applies to the environment, right? We hear a lot about that. And the way you become a sustainable investor is to have assets that produce income. Okay.
The day you buy it.
Yeah. What? The day you buy it.
The day you buy it,
it's got to produce income, right? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not sure if that's your question, but I think it was. Okay. What is Dan asking us, Adam?
Hey, Jason, how much new construction single-family homes have you bought this year? Well, I can tell you personally, I just went under contract on 3 of them.
Where do you buy your properties, Adam?
In Atlanta, the new construction townhomes there.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I haven't purchased any single families this year, and I'm feeling like the shoemaker with no shoes. I'm so busy running my darn business that I, many times let the best investments go to our clients. The other thing is, every time I buy a property, it's one I can't sell. So for me, it's a little bit of a moral hazard, if you will, because when I buy, we don't have enough inventory, folks. That's the biggest problem. And we've had that problem for several years now. Now, I just sold a big apartment complex that I owned with a client of ours. And it was the first time ever that I did not complete my 1031 tax deferred exchange. But I'll tell you what I'm planning to do. I am going to get a portfolio loan, and I am going to find a tape. In other words, a portfolio of properties, and they're going to be in one city, because as you've heard me talk about over the years, I made the mistake of over-diversifying when I was buying a bunch of single families and being in too many markets. I used to have properties in 11 states and 17 cities, okay? That was such a big mistake. Don't make the mistake I made, okay? It became very unwieldy, and I've been unwinding that for many years. I want to get down to 5 markets.
What are you down to now?
Okay. I don't know. I'd have to count them. Let me see. I've got properties in, I'll just go by states. I've got properties in Texas, Florida, Alabama, Indianapolis, Missouri, Tennessee.
Yep, over 5.
Yeah, there's over 5. And Nevada too. So 7. Yeah. I don't know if I
less than 11.
Yeah. I owned so many houses at one point, Adam, that I literally forgot I owned a house. There was one house I just totally forgot. And Karen, my assistant at the time, she brought some documents to me, and I said, I forgot about that property. I didn't know I owned it. I thought that is cool when you start forgetting about assets you have. Okay.
As long as it hadn't been sitting vacant the whole time.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't vacant. But I just forgot about it. Had a manager, and money was being direct deposited. Okay, I think you're saying COVID 1984 scamdemic. Yes, plandemic, scandemic. Very good. Very good, Jim. Okay. What does this say?
They're done with school and they've been homeschooling.
Yeah. Yeah. School districts are hopefully over. It's a dumb idea. It's an old out of date paradigm. Okay, let's get through these questions. We'll wrap it up here. Okay. Quantalytics Macro Finance. I love that name. That's great. Is that your brand name for your company, Quantalytics? That's a good name. All right, Adam, you want to get the question so I can take it?
Yeah, in terms of getting Section 8 tenants, I have absolutely no problem. I have two properties that are Section 8. It used to be 3, and the tenants are great. I mean, the thing about people in general is people for the most part are good, and people on Section 8, there's a couple of different things. Number one, they're still for the most part good people who just have something going on, they've fallen on hard times. But number two, if they mess up your properties and completely screw you over, their voucher could go away. I mean, if they
get kicked
mess
out
up
of
the
the
program too much.
So what Adam's saying, they could get kicked out of the program for life.
Yeah.
And so, they're going to hopefully guard that. Now, it's not always true. You do get definitely some bad Section 8 tenants.
Yeah.
But bad tenants in any
the worst make ready I've had to do was based off of a cash paying tenant. So it wasn't Section 8.
Okay. Okay. So.
Yes.
Well, Adam, you got to read the question.
If you hold a great deal of cash,
they're only listening. They're not looking at the.
If you hold a great deal of cash, would you still borrow to build rental homes, or I'm assuming also to buy rental homes? Absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely, yes. I agree with Adam for sure. We'll say
it increases your return. It gives you the leverage, and you're able to buy 5 instead of 1, and diversify yourself across either multiple markets or multiple properties.
There's my hip hooray. Yes, definitely use leverage when you can. All right. It's already happening everywhere. Gold for property. Yeah. Well, the gold color with your name, you're obviously a gold bug. I'm not a gold bug. I mean, listen, I own some, one of my companies does, I should say, but, gold doesn't produce income, and it's an insurance policy, but it's not an investment. It doesn't produce income. It doesn't give you any tax benefits. Okay. Have more properties. So yes, trade your gold for properties. I think that's a good idea. Crypto exchange. So what about it?
I'm assuming that's instead of gold for land, you're trading crypto for land, and that's an even tougher sell.
Yeah. Okay. So Alabama raw land to build on in Alabama.
Hey, if you've got it, email us. We'll send it to our builder.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love some more inventory. We have a huge shortage of inventory, and we need more inventory. Agreed, yet stay diversified. Yes, good stuff. Okay.
I'm assuming there's comments here that property, raw land, crypto, gold, silver, and 401k.
Oh, you're just saying your investments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So what I would do with that portfolio, even though you're not necessarily asking me, I'm going to give you some advice. I'd get away from the raw land, or I'd build on it, improve that property, and collect income from it, or sell it and buy income-producing property. The crypto is super highly speculative. I do have another podcast called the Crypto Cast, okay? And as Adam knows, I am not a crypto believer, but I will say I would love to be wrong about this. Adam, you remember me saying that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, why would I love to be wrong about this?
Because you're a libertarian.
Oh, no, not just that. Not just that. But I guess you're right. That is the reason. Because
sum it up in a very simple fashion.
Okay, yes, that's true. Look, I would love nothing more than to see a decentralized currency not controlled by, elitist central planners. Okay, that'd be great. The value of currency should be set by the market, not by a central bank, okay, or government. But look, These are the most powerful forces the human race has ever known, and we should align our interests with them. A cryptocurrency or an alternate currency of any type, gold, silver, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, they're all competition for the one major product governments and central banks have, which is their currency. The dollar is the product of the United States and the Federal Reserve. The euro is the product of the European Union and the ECB, okay, the European Central Bank. So, I mean, are you going to compete with these entities? That's crazy. They will let it go so far, and then they will squash it. They're not going to tolerate a cryptocurrency coming and getting in their way. And then I can hear you saying, well, they can't do it. They can't. Bitcoin is decentralized. They can't stop it. Well, okay, you're right. They can't completely stop it. I'm sure you're right about that. But they can certainly put a dent in it. They can't completely stop cocaine and heroin either, but they can certainly put a dent in their business, okay, by making it illegal. So, look at the cryptocurrency that's going to win. We're going to have digital currency. It's probably going to be China first. They're going to have a digital currency first, I think, and then there will be a digital dollar. So we're going to have crypto. It's just not going to be any of the existing free market versions of it.
Well, I mean, and you might even have some crypto that, stores accept or these people accept and all of that. But the simple fact of the matter is the U.S. government is never going to accept tax payments in Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything they don't control.
Never do that.
So until that, your investment, your crypto is still tied to the dollar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, if you look at Bitcoin, people got excited when Bitcoin got over $20,000.
Yes, dollars. Notice it said dollars. Yes. And everybody that is spending money in their daily life that is a cryptocurrency investor, the first thing they do is they convert their cryptocurrency to dollars. Dollars. Yes. The almighty dollar. This clapping machine goes on too long. It can be a short.
But as soon as the federal government says we'll accept tax payments in this format, that format will be a potential good investment.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, so a couple more comments. We'll wrap it up here. So Devin says, crypto and gold, shiny objects. Definitely, those are shiny objects. Don't fall for shiny object syndrome. I agree, Devin, completely. It's too late already. Over 1 trillion in cryptos and climbing. Well,
that's the overall market. Which is
true. I think.
But if you look, it's also $1 trillion.
Yeah, I know. That's the funny thing. You keep denominating it in dollars. Look, I agree there is a huge market for this. I'm just saying that I'm not going to hang my hat on something that is outside, something that doesn't have a standing army, okay? Governments, and by nature of their affiliation, central banks, have standing armies. The US has 12 aircraft carriers. Bitcoin and Ethereum don't have any aircraft carriers.
They have servers.
They have servers. And they use a lot of electricity, by the way. They're not environmentally friendly at all. So, look, I'm just going to tell you, I would love to be wrong about this. I want to be wrong here, but I'm not going to be wrong, okay? The cryptocurrency that's going to win the day is the one that is sponsored by governments and central banks. Sadly, I'm not happy about this. That's the way it is. Okay.
You might see developing countries peg their currency to Bitcoin at some point. That's possible.
For developing countries and countries in crisis like Venezuela, yeah, absolutely. That's very true.
Donald, they do not currently accept Bitcoin for tax payment. They only accept dollars in the U.S.
Adam, did you try to pay your taxes in Bitcoin?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Okay. So I convert to gold and silver coins, I think you meant to say. Okay, coins, yes, that was a typo. Okay, so Jason, I'm fixated on the artwork behind you. Artwork is not an investment. Why not? because it doesn't produce income. Now, if I could rent this painting out, that would be, then it would produce income and it would be an investment. Otherwise, it's just a speculation that's nice to look at. That's all it is. And by the way, this one is by Jang. That is a Hunan school artist, kind of a famous artist. Look him up, Jing, I believe. Okay. Here's how it relates to investing, Rob. You make money investing, and then you buy what you want. That's how it relates. Okay.
Which home bought that painting, Jason?
Yeah, there you go. So dollars is the only comparison to value. It's global, so the equivalent of holding value. Remember, currency is in every country. Yeah, of course. The dollar is the reserve currency of the world, and it's the most stored and used currency in the world that the human race has ever known. So, yes, I agree. I'm not sure what the point of that is, but yes, you're right. Okay, so I love packaged commodities concept. Yeah, good. What Devin's talking about there is I teach this concept called packaged commodities investing, where you really are investing in commodities. All of this is, what is it, right? What's around us, right? When you just look at the house, right? It's lumber, concrete, petroleum products, copper wire, glass, steel. These are commodities that are traded globally, have intrinsic value, and we buy them packaged together in the form of a house. That's what I call packaged commodities investing. I also call it assembled commodities investing. So we are commodities investors. We love commodities, but we don't buy them on the commodities exchange. We buy them in the form of houses. Okay, and that's, yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you like it.
And that's actually one of the things that I talked about at Meet the Masters during one of the points is, as the price of goods goes up, for example, the townhomes that I just went under contract with, if I'd gone under contract with them 2 weeks ago, they would have been $2,000 cheaper. But the cost of goods went up to the point where they had to increase the sales price of the property in order to make their profit.
Because of the materials
because
cost,
of the material costs,
commodities increasing. Yeah, good stuff. Not good when you're a buyer, but you're a commodities investor, Adam. The market goes up and down. Okay, do you expect a wave of foreclosures in the future after the elections? Okay, yeah, I think foreclosures will increase, but that doesn't mean, see, people take this the wrong way. Most people, Chris, think, okay, well, then I'm going to keep my powder dry and time the market. And you know what? Market timers never succeed long term, okay? The people who win the game are the people that buy good quality assets that produce income and they hold them. You might get some, as you dollar cost average, in the market where you're buying them cheaper and some more expensive. But the point is, the people who win are the people who are in the market, okay? That's the winners long term. It's always been that way. It will always be that way. And there's always some countervening kind of force in the marketplace, right? We may not see forbearance programs subside. We may see another kind of bailout. We're trying to predict government and Federal Reserve policy here. I don't think you can do that. The fact is, and remember the other thing, if you try, and I know your question's not about timing the market, but a lot of people take it this way. They take it this way. And one of the things they never account for is the opportunity cost of timing the market. What I mean by that is, of course, you think, well, it could go the other way on you. You could miss out. I mean, back in February and March of just this year, people thought right now the market would be devastated. And of course, it's on fire. Okay. They thought prices would be cheap now, and prices are higher now. And there's almost no inventory whatsoever right now. Okay. So that's one thing. It could go against you trying to time the market. But the other thing that's a sure bet is that the market is you're going to lose by timing the market, because you're going to lose the return on investment you would have received while waiting. We just showed you some properties that perform at 30 or 32% annually. If you wait a year for this big, collapse in the market that may or may not come, I don't know. I think mostly these foreclosures are going to be in high-end properties in urban areas that we don't recommend anyway. They're not going to be in these cheap suburban properties that our investors like to buy. And so you're going to lose, that 30% over the course of the year that you would have received on your money, that 30% annualized return, right? So timing the market just is not the plan. Okay.
Yeah, I've been saying for quite a while to people, if you look back at the Great Recession, they let people go into foreclosure and get evicted and everything because they considered it the fault of the borrower that they went under. They lied on their application.
Right.
They did this, that, or the other wrong. This time the government knows the government is the reason that you lost your job. And the government's actions are why you're in forbearance mostly. So they're going to help people out as much as they can because they know that this wasn't a personal choice. You didn't lie to get your loan. You were truthful. You were paying it all off. And suddenly they said, stay home. All of these jobs disappeared. It's on them, not you.
Lockdown. Yeah. So that's one point that's interesting. And, one more comment on that idea, Adam, is that, a lot of the unemployment really exists in the market of non-homeowners. I haven't seen actual data on this, but a lot of these are like lower wage food service type jobs. And it's a very uneven thing. I mean, some people are doing fantastically well right now. I mean, my business is great. I'm not complaining. I think COVID's been actually quite good in terms of my business. But I didn't know it would turn out that way a few months ago. I was a little concerned for sure. But it's very uneven. Okay, that's for sure. And a lot of it isn't homeowner thing. So,
and also, if that was Chris, my client, hey Chris, congratulations on the property in Florida.
Is that your client?
His name is Chris, my client is Chris Colassa. I assume that's him. And this is my guy Brian Stevenson too. Hey,
you never know. Hi, Brian. Okay, so your client's question.
Why is Atlanta not considered a cyclical market? It's actually a hybrid market for the most part. And it's a market that you can get in and out of dependent on the price. It's finally gotten back to the price point where it makes sense to get in and will cash flow the day you buy it. I believe before I came around, Jason was selling a bunch of properties in Atlanta.
We did hundreds of deals in Atlanta over the years. Yeah.
And so it's a hybrid market that, you get in and you get out whenever it makes sense. And right now it makes sense to get in.
Yeah. Good stuff. No, Atlanta is great. We're really lucky to have properties there. Okay. Look, we got two more questions. We got to wrap this up, folks. I gotta make my famous signature salad, okay, for lunch here. It's lunchtime on the East Coast. It's almost 1 o'clock. So
hard pass on the salad, but
I got to make my awesome salad here. So a couple more questions. We're wrapping this up. Thank you, Bryant. Okay, Adam.
Love the format. Thanks, Devin.
Oh, hey, thanks, Devin.
Been fun.
Do it. All right. What's this one?
With each additional mortgage I get, the cost to borrow rises. With 12 mortgages, the cost is now 6%. How do you avoid higher borrowing costs as you grow your portfolio?
Well, you probably don't. You're probably going to pay a little bit of a premium. But think about it. That's not that high. Okay, you're outside of the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac agency loans right now because you're over 10, and that's still very cheap money. Okay.
Yeah.
It probably won't go much higher. In fact, if the overall market interest rates stay this low, I wonder when you got the last loan. I would probably think it was at least several months ago. And, that loan might be even cheaper now, even that type of loan. So
I have 6% Fannie and Freddie loans from, a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Yep. There you go.
And you can still cash flow at 6%. I mean, it'll be a little bit lower in today's market, but it still works. Just plug in your numbers and make sure it makes sense the day you buy it, even at that percentage.
Absolutely. And Chris says, thank you. And with that, I want to say thank you, Adam. Great job co-hosting with me today. So you're welcome anytime. And any closing comments we should wrap it up with?
No, I would just say if you're even considering it, reach out to us. I mean, we're happy to talk with you, even if you don't end up buying with us. We're happy to talk with you and figure out and help you through whatever you're experiencing. So never hurts to make a phone call.
Yep, absolutely. Yes, we're happy to help. We're here to assist you in building a fantastic income property portfolio. As I've said, income property is the most historically proven asset class in America, and we are the provider of these great properties in great markets nationwide. So thank you all for joining us, and happy investing. We'll be back tomorrow, not with a live stream, but with a podcast. My Creating Wealth podcast is 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and we are well over 1,500 episodes now. So join us for that, and you can do that every day of the week, 5 days a week, and check that out. And Adam, thanks for joining us, and everybody, happy investing. Bye-bye. Clapping machine.